Hello and welcome to the Book Club Review. I'm Kate and this is the podcast about book clubs and the books that get people talking. When Book Club Review co-host Laura moved from London back to her hometown of Vancouver after the COVID lockdowns, we knew that being 5,000 miles apart wasn't going to stop us podcasting. Since then, we've recorded remotely, seeing each other in person only rarely. Definitely a good excuse then for me to plan a family holiday to the US that would also take in Laura's corner of North America. And so in this episode you'll find us together again in Seattle, where we spent a few days encouraging our families to go and view the Space Needle so that we could record chats about books. You'll hear about our recent reads, plus I've got exciting news about an autumn release I think listeners are going to love. In the way that holidays take us out of our usual habits, I got pretty into drinking cocktails when I was in America. And at the end of the show, you'll be hearing from Margaret C. Beeler, lover of books and finely mixed drinks, who has combined the two into a cocktail and mocktail recipe book called Tropetails, inspired by literary tropes. She's sharing the recipe for one of her current favourites with a special offer for Book Club Review listeners, so don't miss that. But now it's time to head to Seattle, where Laura and I caught up over our book stacks. Here's how we got on.
Here we are.
Yeah, the children are playing in the shed. We don't know how long they're going to be playing in the shed. But here we are in person, together again, in Laura's brother's house here in Seattle. I think it's your sister-in-law who's the reader who's got this fantastic book collection around us. So it's a very nice, bookish place to be in a fantastic bookish city, the most amazing bookshop, Elliot Bay, where we were today. How are you doing?
I'm very good, yes. I mean, I always get a lot of reading in at this house because my daughter plays with her cousins. And then this trip, my daughter's very happily playing with your daughter. So I've already finished one book and I'm on to the next.
Well, we've each got a little stack here, and it's been a while since we've talked books, person to person. So, I want to catch up. I want to know what you've been reading, what you're looking forward to reading. What's going on? What's top of your list?
The book I just finished is Welcome to the Winam Dong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-rum.
Always a worry, the Korean pronunciation, isn't it? I found out from my friend Joseph's podcast, Curious Readers, he's a bit more committed to doing pronunciation research than me. Anyway, it turns out that Han Kang, Nobel Prize winner Han Kang, it's pronounced Hong Kong.
Oh.
It was just who knew? And even though now I know that is the correct way to pronounce it, I just can't quite bring myself to. Anyway, I feel like you've made a reasonable stand, but what is it?
And I did do research.
Hyung Dong Bookshop.
It's me. I can't speak any other languages. But I did, listeners, I swear, I did look it up and listen. Slipped out of my grasp.
I think they all know the one we mean because this book has been everywhere. It's a bestseller. It feels like one of those classic
cozy fiction
bookshop. Is there
trends.
A cat?
There isn't a cat. And actually, it drives me absolutely wild. On the back, there's a picture of kind of a stylish-looking Korean woman walking a dog. And that same illustration ends each chapter in the book. The bookseller does not have a dog. There is no dog in the book.
Are we kind of leaving it open for a follow-up, maybe?
I don't know. I bought this book for my mom for Mother's Day because I felt like it would be a nice, easy read, a nice, cozy Mother's Day read. And she said she liked it. Nothing to write home about. But I stole it off her bookshelf last week, and I really liked it. Now, you have been a little dismissive of this, following the bookshop trend.
Not so much. I just feel what are the other ones? You recommended Days at the Morisaki Bookshop, which
that's true.
Had,
also like that one.
Quite enjoy. And I just found that so I didn't really enjoy the writing. I didn't care about the characters. I think a lot of the bookshop stuff frustrates me because I feel like it doesn't really translate because it's referencing things that are known there. Like in the case of Japan, Japanese literary culture, that don't have any meaning to me. So I feel like that layer of what I would enjoy about a book set in a bookshop is lost. Anyway, but you feel like this is...
I don't know if you would like this book for those reasons. But it really did grow on me because it could just be a twee, earnest story, of a young-ish woman. I think she's in her mid-late 30s, burning out from work. throwing away her life. And we really don't know what life she's thrown away until towards the very end. But we know that she's gone through something and she's thrown away her life. She's cut ties with her parents because they judged her so harshly. And she's opened a bookshop, this place of retreat. And perhaps somewhat predictably, she gets to know people in the neighborhood and she hires a barista. And there's all these people recovering from life who come to this bookshop and build relationships. But what you wouldn't expect running through this is this very critical commentary on Korean capitalism and work culture. And I actually had to do a bit of follow-on research to fully understand what they were talking about, because they were talking a lot about being a company man or a contract employee versus being a part-time employee and never getting that job. The barista he's gone to university, he's been top of his class, and he spent his 20s trying to get a permanent full-time job, which seems to be the baseline of status in Korea. Like if you can't get a company job, you are pushed down class-wise, no matter your background. And he's given up, he's tired of applying for jobs. So I looked into it. It's actually a little bit like France, where once you hire an employee, you basically can never get rid of them. But what has happened in Korea then is that companies who need a bit more flexibility in their workforce are filling the gap with people on part-time, not even part-time, but like shorter term contracts where they don't get benefits, they don't have negotiating power, and they can work in that role for 2 years or longer, although it sounds like the Korean government is trying to tighten it up, and then they get fired. Whereas the unions are very strong. So if you're in with a company, you're in. Your pay will continue to grow with tenure, whereas you could be doing exactly the same job, but you're outside that system as a part-time employee.
Oh, I see. So if you own your own business, where does this situate you?
I think a little bit outside of it, but certainly the people she employs, they are part-time employees to start, at least, and there's a thread that goes through. But as well as it being this commentary on the culture they're living in and the pressure and the stress that's applied to people, there's actually this thread around work and the value of work and why do we value it so much. And it is thought-provoking, also a bit clunky. And I wouldn't say that I necessarily felt I knew the characters in great detail, but maybe this is just simplistic and I'm wrong about this. But I often feel like it is a cultural gap. Right? Like even days at the Murasaki bookshop, you were saying you feel like the characters weren't all that developed. Sometimes I just feel like they're culturally very different to me, and how they're interacting with each other is all very culturally appropriate and, very normal. And it's weird for me to bring my Western expectations of how characters should be developed.
Yeah, definitely.
I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't throw it at people. I wouldn't press it on them and say, oh, you'll love this. But it did get me reflecting. I should also say about opening a bookshop, clearly, because there's a lot in here about the practicalities of opening a bookshop and how much work it is. And she opens it really just planning on having it open for a year or 2 years because she thinks there's no way that she'll make a go of it. But towards the end, she's recommitting to the bookshop and how she will help it find its place.
Does it make you feel like you want to open a bookshop?
I don't know. I think I would feel a little bit trapped if I had a bricks and mortar shop that I had to go to every day.
Laura, the Book Club Review bookshop.
One day.
We've never thought of this.
When we're old and grey. I think I would need to work 1 day a week at a bookshop first.
Trial it out. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I've got this book at home that, because I'm reading it so slowly, I've never been able to talk about it. It's called The Bookshop Woman. It's Japanese, and I couldn't quite work out if it was fiction or memoir, but basically she needs to earn money. And so she sort of sets herself up on some kind of equivalent of like I feel like OnlyFans is not a good example, but some kind of platform where you can basically offer your services and, people can pay to buy your time. Anyway, the service that she's offering is that she will take people, lonely men, round bookshops. And the experience is basically getting to go around the bookshop with her, and she'll recommend books and chat to you about books. And I said to my husband, could I earn money taking lonely men? I feel like I would be great at this. I've never really thought about it before, but podcasting, it doesn't pay that well. I'm trying to look into alternative revenue streams, and I feel like... Anyway, he said he did not feel that OnlyFans was the way to go if I wanted to pursue this topic. And so the whole thing is currently in abeyance, but I am thinking about it.
Okay.
If any listeners out there, male or female, want to pay me to take them round London bookshops, I would be I would pay you to get to do that.
I mean, I actually feel like that could be a whole tour. Like, I feel like you could sell that. I
mean,
like London bookshop tour.
And
just set up a little website. People can like sign on.
Right?
I don't know.
And they say that, if you find a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I mean, that would not be work.
Avoid
I can't think of any aspect of that would feel like work.
I would say avoid the one-on-ones with lonely men and go for nice women.
Yeah, maybe. Depends on the lonely men, doesn't it? So I've got a little ongoing stack because I've been traveling. We had a week in New York, which was absolutely fantastic. And while I was there, I acquired from a Bookworld friend this book, which I'm holding in my hand, which is a proof of the new novel from Lily King.
Ooh.
Author of Writers and Lovers, which we loved, didn't we?
Yeah.
There's a short story collection of hers as well. I can't remember the title, but I really enjoyed that too.
Euphoria?
Maybe, is it that it?
No. Euphoria is the one set in Papua New Guinea.
No, and that's not Lily King, actually. That's someone else. That's
Is it?
Is that Lily King?
I'm pretty sure that's Lily King.
Oh, because I was like, that's Anne Patchett. It's not. That's State of Wonder.
That's State of Wonder.
But
no.
Euphoria, I also love. That's right. That's about the anthropologists. Okay, fine. So Heart of a Lover is the new novel. It's coming out in October, I think. I started reading it and I was so captivated. In some ways, it's very familiar territory from Writers and Lovers. If you enjoyed that book, you will instantly feel very at home and you will really enjoy this. Young female protagonist at college, trying to figure out what she's doing, what she's sort of there for. And she falls in with these two undergraduates who feel like they've nailed the system in a way that she hasn't. Like they've befriended all the most interesting professors and they're really feeling like they're engaging with the literature that they're all studying on another level. And so she gets drawn into their orbit and then starts to have a romantic relationship with first one. And then as things evolve, that moves to the other. And it's just all incredibly absorbing. And the characters are so vivid. You believe in them. You're very invested in what happens. You're kind of enjoying the campus novel. And all of that then is the first half of the book. And what's really interesting and wonderful about that book is where she takes it next, because it then jumps forward in time. And our character is now looking back on these friendships and these relationships. And you then go through a series of present day events, which I don't want to spoil. I would say that emotionally, it's pretty heartbreaking, but in a way that feels so alive and precious. And like someone has really captured something so beautifully about the nature of human life and love and friendship and family. All of that bound up in this incredibly accomplished book. And it's full of so many brilliant lines that leap out at you because she distilled something so perfectly. So I absolutely loved it. I'm excited for everyone to read it. It's very unusual for me to read something ahead of time in that way. I started reading it on Friday. I think I finished it by Sunday. It was great. I loved it.
Do you think it'll get any recognition on the awards circuit? I feel like Lily King doesn't.
It's interesting, but also it's funny because it's one of those, it's about relationships and it's a woman and it's written by a woman and I don't know.
Well, I kind of feel like that's why.
If a man had written this.
Yeah,
exactly. And yeah, I wonder whether it's reasonable to say that, yes, it feels like because of the territory it's covering and the fact that it's written by a woman, maybe it doesn't quite get the recognition that it should do. But I think people who read it will know. And for that, it's just great. It was really, really, really good.
I'm excited about it. I really like Writers and Lovers. And I think, if she isn't recognized awards, I feel like it's because there is, in a good way, a slight commercial streak that she gives you what you want.
Yeah, this does that, but in a way, I feel like this is almost like more ambitious than that.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
It feels like a step up. Or also maybe a story that she really wanted and needed to tell. And so it's got that ring of authenticity to it that I think is what makes it seem extra resonant, extra special. I can't wait for people to read it so they can agree with me, disagree with me. I would love to know what other people think, but yeah, I thought it was pretty great. Coming up, all the reasons why Laura and I both love Seattle's Elliot Bay bookshop so much. But first, if you're yearning for the ad-free days of the Book Club Review, fear not. You can come and listen to the shows ad-free over on Patreon. Patreon is a nifty platform that allows people to support the creators of shows that they love. You can listen via the app or in your own usual podcast player via the RSS link. And don't worry, I give you full instructions for how to set this up. But wait, there's so much more than ad-free episodes. You'll get the Book Club Review Weekend, the extra show I make just for subscribers that's a mix of news and interviews with reader friends and book world folk. You'll also find our chat threads, where you'll be able to swap book recommendations with other Book Club Review listeners and with Laura. It's an amazing community there, and I get so many good book tips. And if you want to come and talk books with me in person at the higher tier, you can join the monthly book club. We meet on the last Sunday of every month over Zoom, which I then make into a special catch-up episode for anyone who couldn't make the live session. This month, we're reading On the Calculation of Volume by Solva Bao. All this for the price of a couple of coffees a month. Head to patreon.com/The Book Club Review for all the benefits and how to sign up. Now it's back to Laura and a new stack of books to take her through the holidays.
My Elliot Bay book haul, shall I?
Yes, do.
Okay.
For anyone who doesn't know, Elliot Bay is... it's funny. It's quite hard to put your finger on why it's so special. It's just a really big, beautiful space, but it's not too big. And it has shelves absolutely stuffed with books, but at the same time, there are not too many books, so it's not overwhelming. I went to the big Barnes & Noble on Union Square in New York, and it sort of felt a bit to me like there were so many books there I couldn't quite handle the sheer volume of stuff. This doesn't feel like that, and I think the reason for that is because it all feels so curated. It feels like there's not a single book on a single shelf there that they haven't thought about. And the other thing that is so wonderful about it is they have a lot of these shelfies, these little notes from the booksellers telling you what they think of the books. They're all writers in disguise, clearly, because they're all incredibly well written. They're very characterful. They're quite punchy. They'll jump out at you. They'll often ask you a question or something like that. And so that is a lot of fun. So for many reasons, I would say, yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite bookstores in the world.
Yes, me too. And that says something when we were spoiled, and you continue to be spoiled by bookshops in London.
Mm.
It is the shelfies for me. Also, you didn't mention the hardwood floors. They
Yeah.
have these creaky old warehouse hardwood floors, and there's just something about that space. It feels like a warm hug. I always go there and get sci-fi and fantasy because their booksellers know what's what, and they have introduced me to some of my most favorite sci-fi and fantasy books over the years. I do find that they're very good at having the latest reissue of something from Ursula K. Le Guin. So this time I picked up this very lovely edition of 5 Ways to Forgiveness, which includes 6 short stories, all tied to a planet in a distant solar system somewhere far, far away. I haven't started it yet, but I'm very excited. I think if anyone hasn't read Ursula K. Le Guin, they really must. And if you're like, but I don't like sci-fi, I don't care. Because really the only reason she's writing science fiction is to explore our own humanity and what's possible culturally, anthropologically. I mean, she does explore biology to a certain extent too, by bringing back together humans like us with humans who have evolved slightly differently over millennia. Also, you have to read every word because she's so bloody smart. There's so much in there. I often will only read one of her novels and then stop. I should say, I think I was reading this to you the other day. She has written something like 23 novels, 12 volumes of short stories, 11 volumes of poetry, 13 children's books, 5 essay collections, and 4 works of translation. So basically there's always something new. Even though she's been dead for quite some time, there's always something new at Elliot Bay. So I'm really excited about those. And then this seems like a lot of fun. It's got a very cheesy cover, Winter's Orbit. One match can light up an empire. And I should say it had a full shelfie endorsement. Apparently it's a queer romance between these 2 princes who get set up as the disappointing royals on these 2 competing planets, maybe, I assume. But then they actually do fall in love. And I'm like, yes, this is me on the ferry on holiday. Anne Leckie, who is a bit of a sci-fi legend, still living, says a chilling account of a dark past wrapped in the warm blanket of a promising future. And then Martha Wells of the Murderbot series is captivating. So 2 of my favorite living sci-fi writers really endorse it. But I can't only get sci-fi, right? I can't be that, I don't know. I can't only do that. So I also picked up Audition by Katie Kitamura, which is not shortlisted, longlisted for the Booker. And it's a fairly thin sliver of a novel. And I'd say I'm about a third of the way through already. It's hard to know. Well, I should say it seems fairly straightforward. I feel like I do know what's happening. But every one of the quotes or reviews that I've read says that she's weaving together two contradictory stories. It starts with this established, successful actress who has been successful in film, but is currently in New York preparing for a stage production. And she's also done a lot of live theater. And she meets up with this young, very handsome man at a restaurant, and you don't know for sure why, because they've only just met. He's come to approach her at a rehearsal. And then she's followed up to meet with him for lunch, kind of against her better judgment. And he thinks that she might be his mother, his birth mother, because he had read in an interview that she gave up a child, but actually she never did give up a child. She'd had an abortion, and the journalist wrote around that. But then there's something quite uncanny about the interaction, and then her husband sees them, or does he see them? And everyone around them seems to think they're already having an affair. Uncanny, I think, is a good word for it, because you just have this feeling of dread, even as things progress from there, that something's going to go terribly wrong. Not in a violent way, just in a sort of apprehensive, lives falling apart or unraveling way.
I've heard from one of the Patreons, Carol, who said that she'd read it and hadn't thought that much of it. Like, was always a bit dismissive of it. But then she said what had really surprised her and struck her was the way that her thoughts kept returning to it, and she kept thinking about it. I don't know whether it's one of those ones where at the end you're trying to figure out maybe what has happened. It's maybe not clearly resolved, but for whatever reason, she said, do you know what? I think I'm going to read it again. So interesting, and that all sounds very bookery to me. So, yeah.
I mean, it does say, in this compulsively readable, brilliantly constructed novel, two competing narratives unspool, rewriting our understanding of the roles we play every day. So I haven't come across the competing narrative yet, so I'm waiting on tenterhooks. What about you? What are you reading?
Yeah, I've got a little collection of things that I've acquired on my travels. When I was in New York, I picked up this book, The Odd Woman in the City by Vivian Gornick. I'd never read Vivian Gornick before. I didn't really know much about her. But it is one of the 100 notable books from the New York Times Book Review. You remember that list?
I love that list.
Right? Like,
well, let's be clear. I don't actually read the list.
Yeah.
I just actually trust the stamp.
Yeah. I have come to think that if it has a 100 New York notable books, or even Book of the Year, New York Times Book of the Year, that's reliable. You know what? In England, we have this little black stamp that is the Great Taste Award. Sometimes you see it on food. And my husband and I always do it. It's so reliable. Like, if it's won that little award, it is going to be good. And I feel the same way about the New York Times notable books. They know how to pick them.
And also, they're not always bestsellers. Sometimes they are. But I feel like because there's 100 of them, it's curated. But it's expansive enough to actually scoop up lots of lesser known books where the editors are like, no, this was really good. It should have got more attention.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so this on the front, not to be overblown about it, but Catherine Taylor of the Los Angeles Review of Books said it was a guidebook for how to exist. So the reason I read it is because I was prepping for the episode I just did with Christopher of So Many Damn Books and Drew Broussard. The theme for that show was friendship. And it was too late. We'd already recorded the show by the time I found this in a bookshop. But I picked it up, I guess, because of the sticker, and then started reading it and immediately realized not only was the writing great, but also that actually it's a book that is a meditation on friendship. Vivian Gornick had been married, but she divorced, so she was single for the latter part of her life. And she enjoyed, I think, that status and almost embracing this idea of being the odd woman who didn't quite fit into conventional familial structures or conventional role, I suppose, for a woman in society, and instead had this slightly outsider. The city was her home, and she roams the streets, she walks, she's kind of a flaneuse, and reflects on all these little daily observations and things she sees and all these little details. In one way, it is a fantastic portrait of the city of New York, and I absolutely loved it in that way that when you are somewhere, you love reading about the place. But the other thing it is this ongoing reflection on the nature of friendship. And she has this friend, Leonard, who she likes to see once a week, and she goes on these walks with him, and they walk and they talk. They don't like to see each other more than once a week because that's sort of too much. So they've figured out that just the right volume of interaction for them is this weekly get-together. And they talk, and it is the nature of that conversation and the way that they then see themselves reflected through that conversation and the prism, I suppose, of the way the other person sees them. And almost this interaction where they don't agree on most things, but that's what she finds so fascinating. And all of that is woven in there. So I was kind of like, oh man, just as I was looking for books on friendship, along comes Odd Woman in the City. I went on to read the whole thing and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, yeah, this is a beautiful book. The only thing I would say is, though, I underlined so many passages and phrases and I found it really resonant and meaningful, but immediately it all slipped through my fingers. It's almost the thing where I think you would need to keep dipping back into it and reading it in almost a meditative way. It's more almost like a mood, but one that I enjoyed very, very much and which left me with lots of nice insights, I suppose, into my own relationships and the ways that I engage with the city I live in.
I love it. I'm just flicking through it. My friendship with Leonard began with me invoking the laws of love, the ones that involve expectancy. We are one, I decided shortly after we met. You are me, I am you. It is our obligation to save each other. It took years for me to realize this sentiment was off the mark. What we are, in fact, is a pair of solitary travelers slogging through the country of our lives, meeting up from time to time at the outer limit to give each other border reports.
Yeah, and it's full of lines like that. It's great. It was really good. And then when we were driving back from Connecticut, where we went for the weekend, we drove through this very charming small town called Kent. And I had already been there the evening before for dinner, and there was a really great bookstore called House of Books. I popped in there. Oh, lovely, lovely. And then we just happened to be driving back through on our way back to New York. And as we were going through the town, with no plans to stop, we were going back to the city. Outside the library, there was this quite generous sort of lot that was full of tables and bookshelves and like these kind of wheelie carts, and everything was covered in books. And there was a huge sign saying book sale today. I was like, stop the car. My family are like, no. I'm like, there is no way we are driving past this. So they went and sat in the car park and I went and had a lovely look. And it was just incredible. Like, not only just the amount of stuff that they had, but the edit, like it was all so beautiful. It's organized by librarians. So it turns out that people donate books all the time. They had a huge shed, like a massive warehouse at the back of the lot, which I was like, well, what's... And it said this is not for sale, but you could see there were shelves and shelves and shelves of books in there. I was like, well, what's in the shed? And they're like, oh, well, we have so much that we fill up the tables out here. All of the excess is in there, catalogued. And then when the tables start to get low, we bring out the new stock. I was just like reeling. But not only was it all really, really, so much, but also it's just really good, beautiful books, like loads of things where I'm like, oh, that's great. Oh, I want to read that. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, can't carry anything because we're traveling. But I did, just as a curiosity, pick up this book. It's called The Transitive Vampire, A Handbook of Grammar for the Innocent, the Eager, and the Doomed, by Karen Elizabeth Gordon. And it's just got a funny
title
cover, and on the back it says a book to sink your fangs into, William Sophia. But then when I flip through it, it's like it's a serious book about grammar, written by someone who clearly knows what she's talking about. But what I love is the tone of it is just so funny, and the examples. So just at random, you could open any page, it's all very similar. But this one, interjections. An interjection is a word or collection of words that expresses feeling. An outcast set apart from the other 7 parts of speech. The interjection has little grammatical connection with its neighbouring words or sentences. Since it is strong or emphatic, however, it doesn't really care. And then the examples are what I love. Well, why aren't you on the prowl? Very well, I'll slick your hair down myself. Oh my, how lithe you've grown. Dear me, what cherubic chops you have. Goodness, what a wallop you pack. Wow, what unattainable bliss we've nearly achieved. My God, I must remember your name. They're just so funny and I love it. Like, I don't know anything about her. I don't know anything about this, but I was so charmed. To me, I thought, you know what? It cost me $2 for this gem. I'm going to take this back to London and enjoy it at my leisure. What's this? Yeah. This is words, and what kinds of words they are. Verb, I fancy, dames with broad shoulders. Adjective, her fancy dress showed them off to great advantage. Noun, I therefore took a fancy to her. Verb, the vampire began to powder his nose. Noun, the powder made him sneeze all over the mirror, in which he could not see himself anyway. Noun, the bulge in his jacket made him look pregnant. Verb, he used to bulge all over.
Someone was having fun.
His pants are bulging too. Verb, she pants at the sight of him. Noun, the throbbing made her reel and fall. Verb, he was throbbing with pleasure at this sight. I mean, come on. It's all going to get you pretty interested in grammar. I just think it's hilarious.
Karen Elizabeth Gordon.
Yeah.
When was this written?
Look at the picture on the back. It's like 60s and she has the best haircut. It's like a real Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that great?
Oh, interesting, because I was thinking it would be maybe a bit older than this. But yeah, Karen Elizabeth Gordon looks very Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's all that innuendo. She's really leaning into it. Yeah. She's having a good time.
And the final thing I got at that book sale, which is my gift to you, is a book with a beautiful cover. It's by Robert C. The Cafe with No Name. He wrote the books we enjoyed, The Tobacconist, and there was the other one, wasn't it?
A Whole Life.
That's right, which we thought was great. We took years ago, we talked about those on the pod.
It's such a pretty edition, this book.
And I had heard about it, actually, one of the patrons, I think it might have been Carol again, actually, had read it and enjoyed it. Anyway, I then idly started reading it in the car on the way back to New York, and this is so good. It's kind of simple premise. It's set just post-war, I think, and this young man who's an orphan, but he's grown up and had to make a life for himself, and he's boarding at a widow's house, and he works on the market, helping the market traders, cleaning the stalls and fixing little things. But anyway, he saves up enough, and the lease on the local cafe, which is completely run down and hopeless, comes up. The previous owner has given up and doesn't want to do it anymore. And so he ends up taking on the lease of the cafe. And then it's like, well, can he make a go of it? And he's a very decent person, and you really care about him, and you want this to go well. But Robert C. So German, I can't remember who it's translated by. You can see for me.
Katie Derbyshire.
But he's such an accomplished writer. His sentences are beautiful. The prose is just perfect. You care about the characters. The whole thing is incredibly vivid and atmospheric. You feel like you're there, and you feel like you're in this time as well. There's something, every so often, there is just something. There's a sentence or something that pierces you. There's something that feels so true and so beautifully observed. And it left me thinking, why doesn't everyone rave about this author more? Is it because he's German? I think it must be, right?
Austrian, we
Austrian.
should say.
Sorry, and it is because he's Austrian. But yeah, it's really funny. I feel he's very underrated in a way that I haven't finished it. I read about half, but I was just reading it so happily, and I think it's a beautiful book.
I feel like maybe he is sort of critically underrated, but Whole Life did have huge cut-through in the English language as well. Like, I feel like it was a bestseller, and I talked to a lot of people about it.
Maybe I'm feeling slightly defensive on his behalf because this is like a pristine copy that I'm not sure has been read, and someone in the town of Kent gave it away.
Oh, how could they? Well, I am thrilled. I loved his other two books. There's something quietly composed about them, right? They feel very grown up.
Yes, that's such a good way of putting it. Yeah, quietly composed is a beautiful way. That's exactly right. And yet somehow there's something in it that just sort of lifts your heart. Yeah, they're great.
I really want to go to Austria. I was working with a young Austrian woman until recently, and the Canadian government has made it so that she cannot extend her working holiday visa. But her family have a small hotel in the Austrian Alps.
Nice.
And so she has to go back to this village where the hotel is, and it's like a hamlet. Anyway, I think I really want to get to Vienna, and then I could go stay with this former colleague in the Austrian Alps and read Robert C.
Yeah, and then encourage her to write a book about her experiences.
I was trying to not encourage her to take over the family business, and at the same time, I think it's like she would be the fifth generation. I'm like, what a legacy! Like, this is amazing. Even as someone, who left my home and lived overseas for 13 years, and I get it. I get not wanting to stay exactly where you're from, but also I'm like, just have 5 children and live in the Austrian Alps. Like, it seems lovely.
All right, I feel like this is and we haven't changed, have we? This is a very typically eclectic stack from you and me.
I was going to throw one more in there.
Ooh, yeah.
It is the summer, and I was in a bit of a reading slump. I don't know why. Sometimes work and your brain being full. So it was actually, I was watching shows, Kate, and I couldn't quite get back into reading. Nothing was quite hooking me. And I was over at my parents' house, and they have a ton of books. And this book caught my eye. And I said to my dad, is it any good? And my dad said, oh, yeah, I found it really fun. And it is Tokyo Express by Seicho Matsumoto. It also goes by the name Points and Lines. I don't know when or if they decided to call it. It was called Points and Lines, I think, when it was first translated in 1958. But at some point, maybe Penguin or whatever thought Tokyo Express would be a bit more commercial. Not sure. Either way, I've described this to my book club as almost a Japanese Agatha Christie, which is a bit simplistic because the British and Japanese cultures are so different that the novels are very, very different in how they approach a crime and a mystery. But still, it's slim, it's gripping, and almost from the very first chapter who has committed the crime, if indeed a crime has been committed. There's 2 detectives, and they're investigating a double suicide. They found the couple next to each other. There were witnesses who had seen the couple depart from the train station and head down to the south of Japan. And they'd taken cyanide and were lying side by side, and double suicides, fairly common, apparently. Hopefully less so now. But the detectives just have this hunch that something's not quite right. The young man who allegedly committed suicide is linked to a government department where there's a huge bribery scandal. And so they think there might be more to it. And then you get a very complex unraveling of the prime suspect's alibi, which is all to do with trains and train schedules and train times. At one point, they even have little drawings to help you understand what time one train was leaving one station to get to another station, most of which completely went over my head. But I love this, and it broke my reading drought. It was just entertaining enough, but also different enough to get me back into reading. Sometimes you just need something very different to snap you out of a slump. So I went from Tokyo Express, then to, where is it? Oh, yes, Korea with Welcome to the Hunam-dong bookshop. Long pause. And now to New York with Katie Kitamura. And then I'm going to go to outer space on my holiday.
With
Ursula K. Le Guin. Or I'm definitely going to read the Winter's Orbit, the queer romance. It's going to be great. It better be great. I'm going to be disappointed if it's not great.
Well, this is all fine and very well, but if I left now, I could get back down to Elliot Bay for another half an hour, maybe an hour.
I'm going to take the two wee children to the playground, and Kate's going to jet off, and she says an hour. She's going to be gone for 3 listeners.
You know what, though? This is true friendship. Yeah. You know it when you see it. Listeners, I did make it back down to Elliot Bay and spent a glorious hour and a half wandering the stacks, browsing, daydreaming, reading a first chapter here and there. It was heaven. The nice thing about a bookstore being open late is the opportunity to have a drink alongside. How much better if the cocktail has been carefully crafted to fit the reading material? That's the idea of Margaret Beeler, who combined her love of reading and mixology into a book. Here she is to tell us more with a recipe inspired by one of her favourite reads.
Hello, thank you so much for allowing me to come on here and talk a little bit more about Tropetails. So, like you mentioned, Tropetails is a cocktail and mocktail recipe book written specifically for bookworms by a bookworm, aka me. I came up with the idea over COVID. Of course, lots of great ideas came through that. See the good and the bad. I was a huge fan of creating random craft cocktails for my roommates, having them try them, and then, just overall combining a love for mixology with books. Today, I'm going to share with you guys a little recipe that I've been loving recently from the book called Give Me Your Brains, which is based off the popular trope in dystopian zombies. It's basically a bourbon, aquafaba, lemon juice with some black currant, and you can garnish it with a dehydrated lemon. This is actually one of my favorite ones recently because the black currant actually kind of tones down the bourbon and it makes it a little bit more sweet. I usually like to have this one when I'm reading Bird Box, although Bird Box is interesting because if you've read it or seen the movie, you don't really know who the villain is, but you can kind of use your brain and imagine what they look like, and I see them as zombies, so give me your brains. They're coming after you. They want to eat you. This is a great book to read while you're drinking your cocktail of Give Me Your Brains.
And you'll find that recipe plus the link to the book in the show notes. I hadn't come across Bird Box, although I am vaguely aware of the film version starring Sandra Bullock. I do have a zombie novel recommendation though, which is Colson Whitehead's Zone 1, a book that should appeal to lovers of literary fiction and zombie buffs. In it, a pandemic has devastated the planet, sorting humanity into 2 types, the uninfected and the infected, the living and the living dead. The worst of the plague is now past and Manhattan is slowly being resettled. Armed forces have successfully reclaimed the island south of Canal Street, aka Zone 1, and teams of civilian volunteers are clearing out the remaining infected stragglers. Mark Spitz is a member of one of these task forces, and over 3 surreal days he undertakes the mundane mission of malfunctioning zombie removal. the rigours of post-apocalyptic stress disorder, and attempting to come to terms with a fallen world. I generally steer clear of post-apocalypse novels myself, I've got enough to worry about, but regular pod guest Sarah Oliver cites it as one of her favourite reads. As for Tropetails, you'll find the link in the show notes, and US listeners, if you use the code TROPETAILREVIEW at checkout, you'll get free shipping. That's nearly it for this episode. Books mentioned were Welcome to the Hunandong Bookshop by Huang Bo-rim, Bookshop Woman by Nanako Hanada, Heart the Lover by Lily King, 5 Ways to Forgiveness by Ursula K. Le Guin, Winter's Orbit by Evering Maxwell, Audition by Katie Kitamura, The Odd Woman and the City by Vivian Gornick, The Transitive Vampire by Karen Elizabeth Gordon, The Cafe with No Name by Robert C. Talla, and Tokyo Express, also known as Points and Lines by Seicho Matsumoto. You'll find all those books listed plus a transcript at the episode page on our website, thebookclubreview.co.uk. Comment there and let us know what you've been reading recently. Or come and find me on Instagram at Book Club Review Podcast for updates between shows. And don't forget, you can join the Patreon for ad-free episodes, extra episodes, and our monthly book club, plus the great feeling that comes with knowing you're supporting someone who recently gave up her day job to try and make a go of it as a books podcaster. And so, if you like the show, please do consider supporting me there. Or the completely free thing you can do that also means a lot is to tell your friends, share the show on social media, and leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. Next up, I'm delving into a favourite subject with fellow book podcaster Joseph Dance, and that is books about books. You know you've got it bad when the thing you love reading most is books about other books. We'll be flagging up some of our favourites. Listen in to see if we've included yours. But for now, thanks for listening and happy book clubbing.